do that without. Hey, Craig here, Diggs Rod Shop. I'm working on the 32 Ford today. I'm actually going to go ahead and finish up the headlights. This is one of those things that didn't get finished with this build when the former owner had it. And again, just one of those deals. So what I've done is I've pulled those cardboard things. You've seen those little cardboard eyeball things that they had in it when I picked it up. What I did was called one of my local vendors that I use, which is Yogi's out of Monticello, Iowa. And Georgia hooked me up with the Vintique lenses. These are a licensed Ford product. You can see it right there. And anyway, which is really cool because I want to use as much original product as I possibly can. And then the other thing that came from Vintique also is you got to have the reflector. And the nice thing about these reflectors is they literally come with a kit, and we change this thing over to halogen light bulb, so it upgrades and updates this thing. So the cool thing about it is also several cool things about it. Ken Stack's the one that did the wiring on this car, and he's got it already wired up. I mean, he's making life a little easy for me. So all I have to do is literally pull the ring off here and figure out how all this goes together. So stay tuned, and I'm going to get after it here. The only thing that I don't have is the original latch, which those are kind of hard to come by too. And so these are actually in here with zip ties. Now I may end up zip tying those back together with a larger zip tie. If I can get this thing. Well, maybe. Kind of tough to get that thing out of there. There we go. So that little zip tie in there holding it in there. Alright, so there's the wiring. Just kind of slip that off of there. Whoa, that's some old history right there. Look at that. Wow. So I think that hook's in there. A guy probably ought to take that off and paint it. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm going to get them in there. I will take them apart another day, and I will paint that. That looks a little tough, that's for sure. Well, let's kind of get started. Here's what I do know. You don't want to touch that halogen bulb. That is for sure with your fingers. I suppose the top and the bottom. Right there. And then I would imagine, looks like it has this seal with it right here. And I imagine that protects the glass. Yeah, it looks like I'm gonna have to kind of cut that a little bit. Probably ought to put some glue on the back of it. That just goes to show you how much Craig is prepared today. Put that in there. There you go. I don't know if you guys seen what I did there, but I took that cork gasket. I don't know, I just, I would imagine a guy ought to be able to just slip that in there. Like so. And I would imagine, again, you don't want to touch that lens. I found out that the hard way. And kind of burn those lenses out. Tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get some latex gloves on. That will keep me from touching that bulb. I think there's something to that, and the last thing I want to do is get anything on that oil or whatnot that would literally cause that to burn out prematurely. All right, pull that cork back off there. Looks like that clips in there like so. And looks like we're gonna have to, let's look in the little fancy dancy kit here. Oh yeah, check that out. Right there, they come with it. Now this does not have a turn signal in it. I know the turning signals are actually up in those little lights right there. So I would bet you, yeah, looks like we've got brown and green, which is brown and green. I imagine that might be a ground. It says made in Taiwan. Wait. Did I get any instructions with it? There's definitely an alcohol pad. It says clean that to install low beam tan wire, high beam green wire, ground is black. I are right. So, with that said, I'm going to probably have to put a ground tab on that. That's what I'm going to have to do. So, I'll do that. Okay, so green is high beam. Brown or tan is low beam. Turning signal bulb colors, which would be red, yellow, and black. But like I said, I think they're up in the turning signals there. So Ken has left me enough wire right there. I think that I'm just going to shorten these up just a little bit. They don't need to be all that big. So I'm gonna clip the headlight wires right there. My ground wire, I'm going to leave it long. I'm going to have to put a tab on the end of that. Oh, I like these right here. Did you see that? Let me get up close here actually. You can see that. That's a wire stripper. Okay, I'm gonna run back and I'm gonna get me some grounding tabs, grounding straps. That's what I'm gonna get. Be right back. Okay, I am back. Get my seat up here. Show you what I went and got. So for that ground, I'm gonna have to put a little eyelet on that. And where did she go? Right there. That on right there. Don't think it's really necessary to heat shrink on that one right there, being since it's a ground. There we go. Okay, we can ground that. We've got those ready to go. Nice. Ken's put heat shrink on those. That's nice. You know what I am going to do though? Just a little preventative maintenance. I do like a little extra heat shrink. Especially on this old 32, you know, that beam, though it's as sealed up as it's going to get, still may get moisture in there. I don't want that. Go ahead and slip that on there. By the way, shout out to Juan Campos. Had a good talk with him this morning, and he called me all the way from Oregon. He was wanting to know about that tailgate that we mentioned on Power Nation, and as for the 3100 Chevrolet, we're working on it, Juan. Like I said, I will get those. I know I will. Honestly, guys, I'm hoping that when my son Alan gets back from overseas duty, he and I can work together on that. Usually it's going to be Cassidy and I, like I said to Juan, but the problem is Cassidy. I'm telling you what, you want to talk about a guy that is so versatile. You know, the old story is jack of all trades, master of none. The finish of that is to be better than just one, and that's Cassidy. That guy can do almost anything, right down to the research and development when it comes to that tailgate that we're working on for the 3100. we could figure it out pretty quick if we had the time, and we just don't have the time. And that's the truth. All right, I'm going to try to do that without. Right there. Good job, Ken Stack. There's what you can count on him on. That guy's a wiring guru. He already put that heat shrink on there. I don't need to do it, it's already there. But I'm just a little anal retentive. I'm going to do it anyway. He's got some nice heat shrink on that. Just for safety. Nobody wants electrical problems. And I'm not going to have any now, for sure. That is how you do that, right there. Woo, nice, nice. Look at that. Got that nice ground. You know, this is going to be a pretty simple deal. I'm probably going to need to get, looks like, a 3/8 underneath all that. I think that might be a Phillips also. Nope, that's L. Alright, let's just see what we have back here. Whoop. Knocking things around. Bingo. Not a bingo. Bingo. Got himself a ratchet there. Might have went a whole lot easier. I'll bet he does it on the next one. That there and that there. And put that there. Tell I'm product of the 70s when I talk like that. Disco here, disco there. You old guys will get that joke. Awesome. There's that. I think I'm just going to kneel down here and plug that little jewel in. Put that through there. And kind of see how that's going to go right there. Right there, it goes on the back. It's nice and tight. Turn that so that I can get that. Maybe I ought to plug that. And I'm going to. Maybe I can get that in my hand. I'm gonna have to edit this part out. I'm having trouble here. Okay, so a little frustration there in this particular kit, and so I kind of had to back off and rethink my ink here. And so what I ended up doing, I put a little bit of JB Weld or an epoxy on the backside. You can look down inside here, and that O-ring actually was supposed to, when you pop this thing in from the end of the backside, it was supposed to hold it in there. Well, it didn't. You can see that it's raised too much. So I built an epoxy ring around it and then kind of filed it out a little bit. So now this thing fits nice and solid in there. And I don't even need that little wire clip anymore. I can pull this back out if I want to. I'm not going to do it because I got it in there nice and tight. So with that said, the other thing that I've done on this is it comes with a cork gasket, and that's to go up against the lens right here. And you can see that that's that original Ford lens right there. It comes from Ventiques, and anyway, it's a great product. It fits really good. The other thing I will tell you is this positioning of this bulb has to be on the top, and I can tell you that after I've got this in there, as long as I keep this straight, I can plug that right in, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. One of the things I would tell you guys in my experience also, don't ever touch a halogen bulb with your fingers. Use latex gloves. Don't touch the bulb. Gets the oil from your fingers on the bulb, and it will prematurely burn out. So with that said, I'm going to kind of wipe this clean a little bit. I think it looks pretty good. I want that reflecting the best I can. Okay, so I'm going to set that off to the side, and you can see I keep this blanket here because I don't want to get chips on the paint. On the inside here, something else that I did was this little tab right here. Ford makes a little T-bolt tab system. I did not have that, and they're kind of hard to come by. They're out there, I know they are, but I wanted to finish this over the weekend, so I ended up making my own tabs, and you can kind of see what I did right there. That's a pretty sturdy tab right there. It's stainless steel. I put one there, and I put one down here on the bottom, and I did JB weld them in there, and I mean, they're holding like iron, so I'm not really too concerned about it. Most of this is held by this upper clip anyway, right here. So it goes over the top, comes down, and you pull it in, and you can put your screw and your nut in. Okay, the other thing that I did that isn't really required, but these outer housings, these are original 32 Ford housings, and you can see they're a little rusty. Now, I put a rusted inhibitor on them, so they shouldn't rust anymore. Two things that I did. Number one, I went ahead and added these screws right here into some good part of the material, and that's going to hold that lens on there. That's what I did there. The other thing is, like I said, that cork gasket goes all the way around here for the lens to hold up. But when this goes in there, I'm going to put it in behind these two screws, tighten them up, and that reflector will stay there pretty good. That's one of the things I did. The other thing I did, I wanted to kind of keep them watertight, so I put a rubber seal all the way around this thing. And that's one of those little U-type that you can pull the strips of plastic off, and it's got adhesive on it, but it's a seal that goes all the way around there now. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and slip this one back up in there. And again, the wiring's right there. I know that's to the top side, and I just need to slip that one behind there, slip this one behind there, and you can see that's really kind of holding it in place already. I'm going to go ahead and crank those screws down a little bit. And it doesn't get into the way of the lens because the cork actually sits out on the face. So you can see that's just almost perfect right there. So I'm going to wipe this off too. Nobody wants fingerprints in their lenses, do they? Okay. Nice. That's really nice. Okay, so I'm going to get down on my knees here a little bit. Put that there. This goes over the top of that. I'm going to get my nut and my bolt ready. Set that right there. So I can tell you, I'll do the lens first, so I can hold that on there. That's the top. You want your Ford right there, which is really cool because these are original Ford. Well, they're reproduction Ford, but they're licensed by Ford. Then I have to make sure that that lines up on the bottom. And it does. I'm going to bring that up just a little bit. And this down here that I'm putting on with this stainless steel, I'm putting it on with a lock nut too. One of those neoprene lock nuts. And that looks pretty good right there. Bingo! There it is. I'm going to head and finish up the other one too. I'll get it done and then I'm going to give it a test. So be right back. Okay, I went ahead and finished up the driver's side. It's just a repeat of the passenger side light. I'm getting ready to test them. Let's make sure they work. Ooh-wee! Original 32 Ford right there. Let me see if the brights work. Yeah, they do. Bingo. This is Craig, Diggs Rod Shop. Thanks for watching. I'll put those headlight buckets in there and like and subscribe. I'll keep bringing the videos to you, but that's the upgrade on the 32 Ford. See you next time at the shop.